Timing looks good. So, hello and welcome everyone to our sessions on trust, the trusted secure data sharing space and the future of Europe's innovation and federated data sharing environments. My name is Gerrit Rosam. I'm joined today by many fantastic speakers who I will be introducing before we start. We have with us today Victor Mireles Chavez. He is technology researcher at the Symantec web company. We have Ahmad Hamid. He is researcher and data engineer at the Fraunhofer Institute for Applied Information Technology. Stefan Gindel, senior data scientist at the Research Studios Austria. Lorenzo Gugliotta, who will be joining us online from the Catholic University Leuven. He is legal researcher. We have Jana Augusti, R&D project manager from EBOS Technologies. Emmanuel Adamarquez, he is a research fellow at the Foundation for Research Technology at Hellas. Yannis Routis, project manager at Nova, and we have Manos Pachalakis, consultant at Relational. So this is an overview of the contents that we will be covering in today's sessions. I will give you a quick overview about trusts and the platform that we have developed and the goals that we wanted to achieve with this platform. We will then be going over to give you an overview on federated data sharing environments and some of the solutions that we have on the technical side implemented within trusts. Then we will go over to discuss some of the legal challenges that we have encountered in that endeavor and how we solved these. And then also show some de-anonymization techniques that we have practically implemented in the project before we go over to the overview on some of the practical oriented use cases. A quick note for the speakers and also for the audience that we have quite a packed schedule, so I will be quickly announcing 2 minutes when we need to wrap up to manage the time. And with that, first things first, I will be giving an introduction to trusts. Trust stands for Trusted Secure Data Sharing Space and is an innovation action funded by the European Union in order to address the needs of data sharing spaces, data markets, and the data economy. The project launched in January 2020 and lasts for 3 years, is coordinated by the Leibniz University of Hanover, which I'm representing today. And we have a strong multidisciplinary consortium with partners based in Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, Belgium, Israel, Greece, Cyprus, Spain, and Romania. So, with that said, what are some of the challenges that we aim to solve in trusts? Well, we live in a time of rapid digitalization and rapid globalization, and whether we talk about us as human beings or whether we talk about companies and their supply chains, everything is becoming more and more interconnected with each other, and what happens in one part and one side of the world can have very immediate effects on us and our lives on another side of the world. With that said, innovating in silos and innovating in isolation becomes less and less of a feasible strategy. And multidisciplinary approaches based on collaboration among industries and domains becomes more and more important and is also more and more becoming the norm. Data markets in that sense are a great tool to speed up innovation and also to remove barriers of innovation. And what we are still seeing, though, is that data markets and data sharing spaces are still very fragmented when it comes to industries, the types of data that they offer, and the business models that they apply. So with trusts, we aim to tackle the current limitations of data markets with our platform. And our partners have identified these 3 key challenges that we wanted to address and that impede the growth of the data economy. So first, we have a lack of trusted and secure platforms and privacy analytics tools, and when it comes to the sharing of personal data. Second, we are still seeing limitations to sharing data when it comes to industrial, proprietary, and commercial data, and many data sharing spaces are still limited to open data and sharing open data. Third, we see a lot of diverging quality levels, technical standards, and lots of laws and regulations to comply with. Oh, sorry. With trusts, when we talk about limiting sharing data to open data, the business impact is not going to be very high. At the same time, there's a real value and a real need to share also industrial, proprietary, and commercial data. But with the abundance of laws and regulations, quality levels, and technical standards, it is very hard to achieve real impact with data sharing spaces, and also hard to increase the interoperability among data sharing spaces. So these are the key challenges that we wanted to address. As the name suggests, we want to reinstate trusts in the data economy, and we did develop our platform on two major national projects, namely the Data Market Austria and the International Data Spaces Association. And what we aim to do is to develop a fully operational and GDPR-compliant European data marketplace for personal and industrial use. And the platform was built to not only work by itself, but also to work as a federator and be able to integrate other data markets as well. What was very important for us was also to build a legal framework that covers the whole data value chain and all the people involved in it, like the customers and stakeholders in it. And yeah, that was a big priority for us as well. The project is very practical oriented, and it was guided by 3 use cases that helped guide our development, namely anti-money laundering compliance, agile marketing through data correlation, and data acquisition to improve customer support services. And within these 3 use cases, we had very strong partners in the banking, telecommunications, and ICT sector to help us guide us in our development through practical use and business orientation. With that said, I would invite our first 3 speakers on stage, Stefan, Victor, Ahmad, to give us an overview on federated data sharing environments and some of the technical aspects we had in trust. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's fine if I remain seated. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the technical side of the Trusts project. And for that, let's do a quick enumeration of what are the challenges and how they relate to the technical development. So, I mean, it's a data space, so the idea is several organizations exchanging data. Of course, this data must be discoverable. So this means that we need somewhere to have a data catalog. And in Trusts, what we did was a knowledge graph as a data catalog. So it's a bunch of triples coming, many of them generated by the data space connector, because as you know, the IDS connectors generate RDF in the background, but we also integrated several vocabularies and a couple more ontological relations to create this big knowledge graph. Now, this data should be transferred only subject to a contract. That's the idea of trusts. And this requires automated access control and mutual identity verification. This, again, comes, let's say, for free if one adheres to the IDS reference architecture. Now, sometimes one data provider can transfer a whole data set. Yeah? So the usual idea, you go somewhere, you see, okay, this person has this data set, I get it. Yeah, so then this requires a concept of data sets as we are used to, but it's also possible to transfer only pieces of data sets. Yeah, maybe just one of a million satellite images or whatever. So this requires the idea of services or data services. And this also allows that the data owner can make use of these services to process their own data if they're allowed to move it. Yeah, so if they're allowed to send some data for processing, maybe they can do this via this notion of data services. But sometimes, and this is one of the most interesting things in this project, I think, data transfer is not feasible because of the nature of the data and regulations applicable, etc. So instead of transferring data around, what Trusts does is to transfer code to the owner's premises. Yeah, so this is the notion of data applications, or applications for short, and they are necessary to support privacy-preserving computation, as which is kind of the backbone of the use cases. Yeah, so if this, I mean, really, if you want to adhere to these different notions of data protection or data sensibility, etc., you cannot just move data around, so you have to be able to move applications instead of data, and this is what Trusts allows for. Of course, we're not the only ones. We've seen a lot of data spaces around here, and yeah, they also offer assets, some open, some closed. Maybe they have their own interfaces, maybe they have their own terms on how you can use their assets. And the idea is, okay, if we want to interoperate with them, we need to come up with some solution that takes all of this into account. Okay, so that's kind of the, let's say, the glossary of Trusts, and just a quick overview of how this was achieved technically. Yeah, so we have this notion of corporate nodes, of which they are several. Yeah, we deployed, I don't know, like six or seven nodes during the project. Yeah, each of them owned by a different organization running on their premises. Each of these nodes has a data space connector, which is an IDS connector implementation, and they communicate in a trusted manner. That means in a mutually with identities mutually verified by the by certificates and access tokens, etc. And there is also a special node which we call central node, which is little more than a metadata catalog. Yeah, because if we want to search for assets contained in different nodes, federated search was not fast enough for us. So we centralized at least the one part of the metadata. But of course, if you wanted like the details of what are the terms for a given asset, then you could query this metadata in a peer-to-peer manner. Again, this is in accordance to the reference, to the IDS reference architecture. Okay, now each of these corporate nodes has what we call a corporate portal interface. So it's a UI where people go and interact with the platform, like humans go there from their workstation. And this can be inside a corporate network, symbolized here with this blue link. So this could be like an intranet or something like this. This portal interface does not need to be publicly available. Technically speaking, this portal interface is a CCAN, which maybe you are all familiar with a couple of custom-made extensions on top of it to make it interact with the data space connector. Now, in this corporate node, other things are executed. When I say executed, I mean run as Docker container. So each of these circles, whatever their color, is a Docker container. Yeah. Okay, so what kind of stuff is running in this corporate node? So there's applications that the user acquired. Yeah, so one organization gets an application from another one. They sign a contract for it, and then they get a Docker image on their premises, and it runs on their premises. There's also, but of course they have already stuff. This organization has already some stuff running. That it has to interact. I don't know. They have their database management system or whatever, their customer relation manager, whatever, and this has to, or they would like to have it interact with one of these applications that they bought on Trusts. Yeah. So this interaction between the existing stuff, bottom right. I don't know if I can point. How can I point? Yeah, so this one here, it's already existing. Somebody, they have their own, I don't know, customer relation manager, whatever, and it interacts with what they have bought using the data space connector. Yeah, this allows for access control to the application that they bought, and it means that they will be there will be a trace that, okay, they download this application in this moment and they used it this many times and so on, which can, of course, later on be built if that's the user model of the application provider. Then there's also applications that maybe they want to make accessible. Yeah, so they have, I don't know, their machine learning algorithm or something, and they want to sell access to this with a, I don't know, some sort of micropayment model or something, charge for each API request. So these are the yellow circles on the right. They're owned by the organization, and they just have to kind of connect them to the data space connector so that participants in other nodes can access them and eventually pay for them. Okay. And just quickly, what else is in this corporate node? Some of them, if this corporate node wants to exchange data with a third-party initiative, so think of another marketplace, think of Europeana, think of your national data portal, they can install this data exchange component that does the translation of metadata and of policies between the trusts model and whatever is out there. Of course, this needs, because of a lack of proper standards in this needs already some work, but yeah, we built some stuff that is applicable to many, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And there is also a recommendation engine running there, so that the search capabilities are complemented by recommendations. And on the other hand, on the central node, we have this metadata broker, which is the storage of, okay, it has a storage attached, of course, but it's like the place where the knowledge graph builds and where that manages the ingest of new triples into this knowledge graph. Yeah, and we also have a vocabulary manager, which is in this case pool party, which, as I said, produces further triples or further relations in the graph that are also included there. So yeah, and to have an idea of how this works, like in practice, how does this look? I will now hand over to Ahmed.
Thanks a lot, Victor. So let me just check. Go back. Can we go back one slide?
Red button should be working.
Red button, but it is not working.
Could we go back one slide?
Okay. What we are doing here exactly with trust, and this is really the main focus which we have during the development of the project. And this is the main categories which we are doing, which is like using of the metadata to do the data governance. And also we are supporting the data set and the service onboarding, where we can give like interfaces and APIs and description of that interface and also of the data set. As well as for the data set and the service, we have some kind of a brokerage and a recommendation system, which also make like correlation between all of these, the data set and the application and the services, which we have, plus the service of data protection, where we are doing like the risk analysis and also like anonymization and de-anonymization before sharing of the data, as well as we have like algorithm and the machine algorithm for doing like the classification and also like for doing the data analytics. And also we are supported by a legal partner who take care of having our platform following the GDPR European law, and also like our platform should also follow the law for each country and local country. So like this is like the main thing, and this is I'm using it for onboarding my next slide. So like here I will show you a demo how to like sign up for the trust. So maybe I click here. So first you need to sign up and log in for the trust. So like here, as you can see, we have dataset, we have an application, we have services, yeah, and also we have like the purchase basket. Okay, now here we are creating a dataset. So as you can see, we have a button to add a dataset. So like we have a couple of property for that. Like we need to give like the title for that dataset. Also, we need to give again the description about that dataset, plus also the visibility and the license of it. Yeah. So like what is the reason? Then we push it. Also, we need to upload the dataset and what type of that dataset, as you can see. So now in that we have created that dataset. Okay, now you have like assets, but like next you need to make a contract and you need to make an offer. So like some information about this contract, like it is like the beginning and the end of this contract, and you need to give like the time and the date for each one, as well as the zone time. Yeah, this is very important, and also plus the usage policy. So now you have the first dataset, as you can see. So this is very important at the beginning. Then I will show you next, like how to create the service. Yeah. So I would say service also is very similar, yeah, to the dataset, which will come now. Yeah. So as you can see here, also you have created the dataset, and you have also the offer. So like someone else can come and accept that contract, then he will have this dataset. Yeah. So as you can see here, we have the contract. Yeah. Next, we will create a service. Yeah. Again, you log in, then you add that service. I would say like service and dataset is very similar, as you can see. So you have title, you have description. You will see like also like the visibility of this service. Also, you can enforce like the owner of this service, plus like some kind of keywords to help like for recommendation system. Yeah. Plus also you can see to which the services belongs, the theme of it. Yeah. As you can see here. So like maybe like now you need to add the service or the file of that service. We have added here, as you can see, GPG file. So now we have added the service. So like you think if you have service or dataset, then you need to have a contract or you have an offer. Then the people can like subscribe for this offer. So now, as you can see here, we are creating a contract for this service. So it is like similar, as you can see, to what we have created in the dataset. So like also we can select a couple of options of the usage policy. Yeah. So like how many times you need to access, like it is allowed, not allowed access of this thing. So now we have created that service, yeah, and we have created that contract. Then the people can subscribe. And here also next thing, like we can do also search, yeah, and we are like supported by the recommendation system, which is created by no company here to help us. So you can select where you want to say dataset or service or application, and you can type like the keyword of it. Then it will search and give you like sometimes the recommendation, or if it found like the result. As you can see here, like also you have some of the recommended services and applications, and also dataset. The next part, which is like the asset consumption, yeah. So now you have a couple of services or dataset. Then you would like to accept one of this, yeah, and say, okay, I agree, and I accept that contract, and I am following the same like contract policy. Then I would like to accept it. Then after that, you can download that asset. As you can see here, so I will accept the contract in this phase, and also I can see this contract is like provide access. It's open, so I would like to access it. Then after clicking accept, I can see the data asset. So like now, as you can see, you have the data in your hand, and if you click it, that link, then it will take you to the file itself. Yeah. So finally, yeah. So like here, we are clicking the data asset itself, and we have the file, then we are done. So like the final phase here, that we enabled also the payment phase where someone can pay for that data set if it like needs to pay for certain money. And we also need to have like the asset ID, which you can get it from the contract. As you can see here, yeah, so you type the name of it, then you get the result, and you have an option to pay by PayPal, Google Pay or like Revolant. Yeah, so like this is an option how we create like this. Okay, so like as you can see, it is like storyline how we are doing this, like creating the service, creating the data asset, and making like an offers for this. Then the people can accept it. So finally, I would like to say like here, my last word about like using of the semantic web and also the knowledge graph, then it will help us like to do a couple of things like for searching, because like we are searching using structured knowledge graph, and also it will help us for the recommendation of the service as well as making a contract, plus also like accessing the asset and also making like a notification when something a change of the assets or like of the service. Yeah, and also like we are using like and we are supported by a pool party to have like our like RDF store and services, which help us to do like the metadata management. Yeah, with that I'm done. Yeah, so I will give now the mic to my friend, which explain like how trust can interact with the other external data markets to enable the interoperability between both of them. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Ahmad. I will stand up if that's okay for you. Yeah, so in the following minutes, I'm going to talk about interoperability within trusts. And before I start with that, I want to make to give a short definition about interoperability. It's very often used interchangeably with the word federation, even though technically that's not true. So trusts is built as a federated system, which means that we have a distributed system where organizations can acquire nodes and exchange data with each other. So that's a federated system. It has a central broker node to allow for a larger throughput of data. Interoperability, on the other hand, is concerned with the exchange of data with platforms that are not nodes of trusts itself. Yeah? So what kind of platforms are these? This can be external data markets, industrial data markets, for example, but also scientific endeavors. Yeah? So our task, the interoperability task in trusts, was concerned on the one hand with the creation of an interoperability solution to interact with industrial external data markets, but also very strongly to provide interoperability with the EOSC, with the European Open Science Cloud. Interoperability itself is differentiated into 4 categories. It's semantic interoperability, which was partly covered already by Victor. In this aspect, it's very important to get a metadata model that is flexible enough to allow for interoperability. We used, for example, the EDMI, the EOSC, dataset minimum information, and also EDM, which is the Europeana dataset model. And these 2 metadata schemas were used to extend the trust's information model and make it more flexible. So that was semantic interoperability. Then we have legal interoperability, which is mostly covered in the last deliverable that we provided. And here, Lorenzo, who's going to speak afterwards, after me, gave insights into what we have to consider when we talk about legal interoperability. Because as you can imagine, each organization, each entity that wants to interoperate with such a market has its own legal framework, depending on, for example, organizational guidelines, but also, of course, of the national legal framework that this entity operates within. Another aspect is operational interoperability. So how can such system, how does it actually work? So if you are an external data market, how can you then in the end really interoperate with trusts? For that, we provided an interoperability solution. It's the Trust's platform client. This platform client can be used by external entities to map their data, so the metadata of their data sets into the format that Trusts requires, and then upload it in batch to Trusts. with that also we come to technical interoperability. So technical interoperability covered in our case the creation of this interoperability solution. Yeah, so as I said, we provided a couple of connectors, yeah, so not to such an extent as the IDS connectors, of course, but from the principle they are similar. We provided connectors and the Trust Platform client to connect from external data markets, and we also provided connectors to connect to OpenAir and Europeana, which are EOSC initiatives. All right, why did we select OpenAir and Europeana? The reason for that is if you are familiar with EOSC, then you know that EOSC is not like one monolithic system that you can interact with. Instead, it's a set of very independent initiatives that you can explore. Yeah? So you can go to the EOSC marketplace and then search for EOSC initiatives that comply with your requirements. So let's say you're interested in agriculture, you search for agricultural solutions, and then you will find a variety of applications, usually in the form of web applications. And they are very hard to interoperate with because you would need a lot of different interoperability solutions. So we decided to go for OpenAir and Europeana because they come our interpretation of a data market or data set repositories closest, and they also provide a lot of data and very relevant data. So OpenAir provides data on scientific publications and scientific data sets, and Europeana provides data on cultural heritage. All right. The technical solution uses the very well-known ETL process, extract, transform, load. So we extract the data from those repositories. We transform the metadata to make it fit to the trust requirements, yeah, to make it fit to the trust information model, so that in the end we can then load it into the trust platform where it becomes searchable like any other data asset. We also conducted an experiment to show how an external market operator could interoperate with trusts. Yeah, so for that purpose, we basically set up another data marketplace using the trusts platform as the basic framework. And on the following slides, I'm going to show a short video that demonstrates this. I'm not going to show it. All right, the video is gone? Now it's coming. Okay. All right. What we see here, we have a clone trusts node, which is our simulated external data marketplace. And what we do in here, we select data sets from this clone node. So this is, in our experiment, an external data marketplace. We select a data set here. In the background now, the interoperability solution is running, and what it does, it extracts the data from this external data marketplace, maps it to the trust format, and loads it into the actual trusts. And now we see here that it magically appeared within the trusts platform. Yeah. So what we want to show with that is that we have a solution that someone could use to load large amounts of metadata of data sets into trusts, yeah, in batch mode, yeah, using our interoperability solution. All right, and I think with this we come to the end of the video. Yeah, what I also wanted to mention at this point is I mentioned the 4 different types of interoperability in the beginning.
Last sentence, please, Stefan.
Yes, yeah. And this is not our invention, but it comes from EOSC itself, which provides guidelines on interoperability. Thank you very much. And now Lorenzo is going to talk more about legal aspects within trusts.
Thank you, Stefan. Our next speaker will be joining us online, Lorenzo. Big thank you to Stefan, Ahmad, and Victor for this overview. And now, Lorenzo, are you with us?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect.
Can you share your screen?
Of course. I'm going to do that in a second. Right. Let me know if you...
We can see it, but we need to go into presentation mode, ideally. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. So, hi everyone. I'm going to talk to you about the legal and ethical aspects of the trust projects that were already mentioned by a few colleagues before. And I'm going to mainly share with you an overview of the place of trust in the current legal framework and mainly the way that this project can be an opportunity for this framework and how it solved a few challenges that we encountered. You can see on the slide is the fact that trust comes, let's say, to the stage in an era where there's a lot of activity by the European Commission and institutions to regulate data markets and digital markets. You can see on the left-hand side the complex tapestry of legal acts that are either in force or envisaged to be in force. And you can see that they regulate a lot of aspects that trust touches upon, such as the fact that trust is going to be a data sharing service or data intermediation service for the purpose of the Governance Act. The fact that, of course, it's going to be a platform where the EU has platform regulation in place. It's going to use artificial intelligence aspects, and there's an AI Act on the way. And of course, as an umbrella and actually a privileged legal framework for all this is the data protection framework that Trust is going to have to comply with because of the type of data that is going to be shared through the platform. So this complex tapestry of data law provides at the same time challenges and opportunities for trust. So what can, let's say the relationship between this framework and the project was the core of the legal and ethical assessment that we carried out. The conclusion is, can be explained through a key question, let's say, what can trust be with vis-a-vis this framework? And there's three things that trust can be. It can, of course, be an actor, a simple actor, so that's the baseline scenario. So it can just be let's say, an agent within this framework, and it can be, of course, an intermediation service, and it's going to be regulated by all these frameworks. And it can just stop there, but it can also be a test case for the legislation. So as an innovative platform, it can also stress test the rules that the EU has approved and is going to approve to see the extent to which these rules are appropriate. But it can also be, and that's probably the most ambitious target for trusts from a legal point of view. It can be a leader by example. By employing technologies and processes that, on the one hand, comply with the regulation, but not only so, they can also set a standard for new platforms and for interoperable platforms as well to follow the example. How can it be a leader by example? We can see that by looking at the three main pillars of trusts that underpin most of the activities envisaged to be flowing through the platform, and that have a direct link with the legal framework. First of all, we have the use of privacy-enhanced technologies throughout the life cycle, and whenever it's needed to process personal data that it's otherwise impossible to process as such.
Lorenzo, we need to slowly wrap up.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then this can be combined with the federated learning model with data analytics, and all the trust between businesses is going to be enhanced by smart contracts based on blockchain. The three use cases that the project was running on can of course be an example of how these three pillars were operationalized, and this is going to be the focus of the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo, for this quick overview on the legal challenges. Very insightful. Thank you for joining us today. And with this, I would be inviting our final speakers to the stage, Jana, Yanis, Manos, Emmanuel. Welcome.
right, thank you. We're fine? Yeah. So, let me see. Okay, now I'm gonna start my presentation with the demonstration of the DRAV tool, which is practically a de-anonymization risk analysis through visualizations. Let's start with what is practically a de-anonymization attack. Personally identifiable information can be considered as a name, an address, or a social security number in the past. Removing this from a dataset, it was considered to be anonymized, but as we've seen in the recent developments, that's not true, because there is, of course, existing the quasi-identifiers, which are properties that, when combined, can act as personal identifiers, and datasets which might be considered to be anonymized when combined with other datasets can lead to identification of a person. So this is generally considered the anonymization attack. So the de-anonymization risk analysis that this tool offers aims to identify the data privacy risks and also assist in the compliance with the data regulations such as GDPR. So our tool offers risk analysis for de-anonymization for these types of data, namely tabular financial transactions, aggregated spatiotemporal and textual data. The results of the risk analysis can be viewed in visualizations which are interactive, and users can examine the results, and then based on these results can choose the extent to which they want to anonymize their data. So our strategies for de-anonymization, you can see it in this graph, and they are basically hierarchy-based, suppression, packetization, microaggregation, and NLP-based anonymization strategies. And now we move on to the video demonstration of the app. Let me see, let's go back and then start the video. Okay, perfect. So we start, of course, with uploading the dataset we want to analyze. In this case, we will use an financial transactions dataset. We set a title, of course, and a description so that we can identify it, and also set the separator or delimiter of the CSV file. Yeah. Then, practically, we can start a risk analysis of this dataset after it has been imported to the application. It depends now on, in this case, since it is financial transaction data, we have a privacy notion, a custom one, where we can evaluate the risks of the dataset. Yeah, we need to specify, of course, some parameters of this privacy notion. And then a risk analysis process starts. We can see it here in the processing queue, along with the previous ones. And of course, with the status indicating the status, of course, of the process. Then, after the process finishes, we get this interactive visualization, which shows the conformity of the dataset to the specified privacy notion. And we can see here that we have a lot of red dots, which means that these specific entries are not considered to be safe under this notion. So then we can choose to run an anonymization in order to improve on these risks. From the anonymization methods that are offered, we choose clustering here. And we start this anonymization process. Now, at the end, when this process finishes, we have a new CSV file with the anonymized data. Just to later on evaluate this dataset, the resulting dataset of this process, we will again run a new risk analysis. So to see the improvements, basically. And yeah, here you can see that the new dataset has been created. And it automatically re-uploads this dataset. And then we can run practically the same risk analysis as at the beginning and see how it was improved, the risks, whether they have dropped down or not. Yeah. Of course, it gets again in the processing queue. We wait for it to Finish, and then here. And here we can see the results. Now most of them are blue, which means that they are considered to be safe. Of course, there are still some red ones, but this is up to the data controller and how much do they need to have their dataset anonymized. Of course, there is also the fact that the more anonymized the dataset gets, the less descriptive it is, and yeah. So that's it for me, and then. Jana.
Hi, everyone. So together we're going to get an insight into the trust use cases and the lessons learned. My name is Jana Agusti. I'm representing EBOS Technologies in the Trust Consortium. So EBOS basically is an innovative and client-focused Cypriot SME established in 2003. Providing technologically advanced e-business software solutions to enterprise customers on a worldwide basis. Based on the latest data, we were ranked as the top recipient amongst all enterprises in Cyprus of FP7, H 2020, and Horizon Europe funds, overall ranked 4th, and we're currently participating in 52 ongoing R&D and funded projects. In Trust, we are leading the use cases, basically the demonstration of the Trust platform, or package, let's say. And our aim was to perform actual testing and validation activities as to validate the effectiveness of the platform within the 3 use cases that we already mentioned. The end-to-end platform functionality, processes, and operation was tested by the use cases. And we defined 2 demonstration phases for a 360 evaluation of the data market. We are also leading use case 1, which is the anti-money laundering compliance use case that supports the main Trust objective to create a European digital marketplace platform, providing the dataset trading among business stakeholders. We leveraged the power of the Trust platform concept for securely sharing data between organizations, applying smart big data analytics for anti-money laundering compliance, as well as fairly trading the resulting data to the end users. End users such as financial institutions, corporate audit departments, tax advisors, and many more that need to perform AML checks. This use case aim was to improve the detection of financial crime by combining data provided on the Trust platform, big data analytics, and existing anti-money laundering solutions. Basically, EBOS acted as an asset provider. We provided 2 applications and 1 service, as well as data sets for the 2 applications to run. And we had 3 end users, consumers, basically, that we showcase the trading and the sharing of these assets. These are the 3 assets that we supported our use case, and our use case 2, led by Nova and Yannis Roudis.
Okay. So, welcome to our speech from my side. We at Nova, we are the leading telco and pay TV operator in Greece. We currently implementing more than 10 European projects, research projects, and in various contexts like the customer experience, the media innovation, smart networks, data spaces, and GAIA-X compliant spaces, smart cities, and of course privacy and security. And we also have expertise as industrial partner and user operator, and within the application development context. So our use case didn't involve only us. We were 4 different organizations. The main idea was that we have a telecommunication company and also a bank which want to exchange anonymized data. We also had our technical supporters and analytics providers, which from our side was LSTech from Greece, and also from the... I forgot to say that we were on the one part from the telecommunication company, and the other bank was Piraeus Bank from Greece. And also regarding Piraeus Bank, the analytics provider was fourth. So the idea was that we had to exchange anonymized data, so we had first to anonymize them in both ways, then to make an intersection of these in the correlation between these two data sets, and then another application would use this correlated data set to do some analytics in this context. So we had 3 different apps. We used 3 different applications. The first was the anonymization and de-anonymization app that you just saw. We had also a PSI app for the correlation of the data sets, and of course a banking application where the analytics about the combined data set was done. Next, I will pass to the use case 3 partner.
Thank you. I'll try to be as fast as possible for the sake of time. I'm Manos Paskalakis from Relational Romania, a company that started initially in Greece. In our use case, we tested the services and also the sailing of data from one partner to another. Under those tasks, I will tell you what we basically tested. And it's the service of Aratron, a collection software that is used by many banks in Greece and in Romania, and collection agencies, where the user, the one who tries to buy the data, doesn't actually get data. He gets a query and he gets an answer. It's running only as a service, and it goes through the Trust platform. Let's move to the lessons learned. Jana? I was very fast. You want me to read it? Okay. Those are I was the last one, and always, the fastest one. These are the lessons learned from all the 3 use cases. Faster and more accurate detection of financial crime and money laundering. Detection of more complex money laundering patterns. SMEs gain here access to trust in an affordable, dedicated solution. Competitive advantage, and while all interested business will be fully compliant to the AML regulations, leading all this to reduced compliance costs. That's all from us. You have more? Sorry. Trust provided a sustainable and GDPR compliant manner to anonymize and share data assets, or my friend Manos here said before, enabled us to demonstrate and validate marketing actions based on data coloration to specific geographical areas of interest, and helped also increase digital transformation and respective entrepreneurship activities in specific fields of work. Someone buys the data without the need to be already digitized in his company, but he's already digitizing by getting data that someone sells. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yanis, Jana, Emanuel, and Manos, for this overview on the use cases. And with that, we are well in time. Thank you so much. It has been a great pleasure. And we actually do have still a bit of time for one question from the audience, if there is any. Yes, over there, the person in the back was faster, sorry. Thank you.
Some earlier presentations in this session about bringing in data from other sources, and you were using an ETL approach. And I guess I'm wondering what capability there is to not copy the data, or maybe how efficient that was. I guess one concern I have is that you're defining a platform that requires everything to be absorbed into it, and that's not a very scalable solution unless you plan on ruling the world, which is perhaps less likely, since there are other people who would like to do this.
Yeah, Stefan.
Thank you. So this was not actually, so loading the entire data was not actually part of the goal that we had. Yeah? So we are loading the metadata into the Trusts platform so that it becomes visible from within the Trusts platform. The way that the Trusts platform is set up is that organizations never share their data within Trusts. Yeah? So the organization does not upload their data to a central broker node, because this would be in contrast to the goal of Trusts, and also to the architecture requirement that we have set with the federation. Yeah, so this federation, what it actually does, it provides a central broker node that lets you find data, for example, from me, yeah, as soon as you have decided that you want to use the data, and as soon as we have agreed on the appropriate licensing model, purchasing details, and so on. A peer-to-peer connection is basically established between the two of us, and then we exchange the data in that way. Yeah, and for this peer-to-peer connection, we use the IDS data space connector, which provides a trustworthy way of doing that. Yes, hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Stefan. I apologize that we do not have time for any further questions, but with that, I would invite you to join our booth, which is in the back, the Trusts booth, and connect with us. Ask more questions. Let's continue the conversations. If there are any further questions, let's find ways to collaborate and stay in touch. Thank you very much again to all of our wonderful speakers, and we hope to be in touch with the audience and all of you soon. Thank you.